Can I help you? Take your hand off. Yeah! Hello, I'm Scott Rogers. I'm here to introduce you to the art of Kyusho Jitsu pressure point fighting. First, we're going to talk about what a pressure point is. Pressure point is a place where a nerve comes to an end, where a nerve crisscrosses, and where a nerve branches off and forms the letter Y. Pressure points are holes or crevices in the body that allow one to enter pain directly into the nervous system. If we take, for example, the radial nerve, which travels up the index finger, across the arm, ends in the neck. The nerve is pretty long, but there's only several spots where one actually has openings to attack the nerve. When one attacks a pressure point, pain is transmitted directly to the nerve and travels in a much quicker route than if you struck it somewhere else. So basically, if I struck you on the arm, anywhere on the radial nerve, a signal would be sent, but usually it only goes about halfway up. When you strike it on a pressure point, the signal goes directly to the spinal cord, and then it gets picked up by the brain there. What we do with these signals is we cause bodies to react to what we're doing. We may strike a point to cause a person's knee to bend or to cause them to turn in a specific direction. We also use the points in a cumulative manner. If you strike one point, you will get a good effect, but if you strike one point, say on the arm, and then go for a second point, the effect is doubled. In this manner, a smaller person can defend themselves against a larger individual using pressure points, where without the knowledge of pressure points, it would require much more power and precision. Okay, the points we're going to be covering on this first tape are going to be the points of the arm and the points of the legs. The arm points are considered the most important points in Kyusho Jitsu for several reasons. The first one, in any type of attacking situation, whether it's a punch, a grab, a tackle, the first thing coming at you is the arms. So generally it makes sense to strike the closest thing to you. So while a person may be a few feet away from you, when they reach out, their arms are much closer. Another reason is we use the arms as what we call setup points. By striking an arm point, we can make a more sensitive neck or jaw point weaker, allowing us to knock the individual out or knock him to the ground. The third reason we use the arm points is legally, if somebody grabs you or tries to push you and you hit him as hard as you can and knock him out, that might be an overuse of force. Using the arm points, it allows us to release from a hold or make an individual stop their behavior while still maintaining control and setting them up for future strikes. There are two words that are very important in pressure point fighting. Those two words are angle and direction. What that means is that just because you strike a pressure point does not mean you'll get the maximum effect. For maximum effect, it has to be struck in the proper manner, the proper direction. 3 ways pressure points are activated: by touching, striking, or rubbing. If you take a point on the wrist, which is called a rub point, which means it has to be stimulated in a rubbing manner, and you strike it, you will not get an effect. Conversely, if you take a point in the center, which is a hit point, and you rub it, you will not get an effect. So the two things to always be conscious of is, how am I striking these points, and what direction am I striking them in? Some points need to be struck from back to front, some up to down, some side to side. No pressure points in the human body are struck straight on. So if you were to throw a straight punch out, no matter how hard your punch was, you will not activate any pressure point to the maximum degree. Most of them go down, slightly up, a lot come back to front. That's why in traditional karate there are a lot of moves coming back towards yourself. That's to set up the points going in this direction, following up in the opposite direction. So the first thing we're going to cover is going to be the rub point on the wrist, the touch point on the bottom of the wrist, and the hit point. This way you can see an example of all 3. Okay. The pressure points we're going to be using are the same pressure points that acupuncturists use to soothe or heal. Basically, they put a needle in these different points, and they make you feel better or cure ailments. We strike them in the opposite direction and try to cause opposite effects, either weakness in the arm or set up for further blows. When acupuncture was first developed, they did not know anything of the nervous system, so they sort of invented it on their own. And what they did was, instead of calling this the radial nerve, they called this the lung meridian. All of the meridians in the body are on different nerves. The median nerve is the pericardium meridian. The ulnar nerve is the heart meridian, so on and so forth. So the points have names such as lung 8 and heart 5. That was basically a primitive way of describing the different points on the different nerves. What they've also done is there are different methods of connecting the two together. One of the most popular is called the cycle of destruction, which basically says that if I strike a fire point, the next point in the cycle is metal because fire melts metal. Now, there are about 5 different theories to connect the points, and when you get finished with all of them, you realize that if you strike one point, the next one becomes weaker regardless of what theory you're using. So originally the points were designed to kill individuals and cause organs to stop, and if you were going after a specific organ, you'd want to be on specific meridians. To cause weakness in the arm, to cause a person to fall down or to be unconscious, it's not necessary to take it to that level. So all you really need to know is that if you strike one point in one spot, somewhere else a pressure point is weak. You don't have to know why it's happening. You just have to know to always be hitting points and hit points in connection with each other. Also, as a general rule, we're going to work our way up the body. So we're going to travel from the arm to the neck or the head, or to the legs, to the body, or to the head. Main reason for that is the closer you get to the neck and the head region, the quicker the nerve impulse is transmitted. So while it's possible to actually knock an individual out on the arm alone, it's a lot easier on the neck. So it makes a lot more sense to set him up on the arm and make him weaker for the next shot than to hit the neck and try to hit the arm, which is further away. What I'm going to be introducing now is John. John is a student and a friend of mine. We're going to be showing the first 3 points: the rub, the press, and the hit. Now, we're going to be showing them off of a wrist grab. These can be used in a lot of different ways. This can be used in ground fighting, which we'll explore later. This can be used in motion, depending on the technique. Right now, we're going to do it off of a grab so that we can see exactly where the points are, exactly how it affects him. First point we're going to be using is called lung 8. Basically, where a nurse would take your pulse, 1/2 inch above the wrist joint, there's a hollow depression there. That depression, if he grabs nice and tight and I hit it, he feels it, but nothing happens. Now, if I was a lot stronger than him and I hit it really hard, he may let go, he may not let go. But a smaller individual would have no chance. By rubbing this point in an up to down motion, it causes him to let go, causes his hand to open, and it also causes his body to arch forward. That's very important because as he comes forward, he's set up for a follow-up immediately. Also, something to watch is this arm. There's something in medical terms called cross-extensor reflex action. What that means is when I strike this arm, that arm runs away. So on paper or on a magazine article, if you see somebody standing like this, the first thing somebody says is, he could hit me with that arm. But when you strike one of the points, that arm immediately starts to fly backwards. It's a protection mechanism because your body has 2 arms. It doesn't want both of them to be injured at the same time. Just like if I poke him in this eye, that eye is going to close to protect it. All right, so we take advantage of that. So the first one is called lung 8. It's in the depression. It needs to be rubbed. But if you rub on the surface, nothing happens. You also need to project where you want his arm to go. I want to rub his arm, but I want it going down there, if possible, even towards my left leg. So as I rub, my arm travels down this way. Eye contact is very important. Generally, your arm tends to go where you look. That's why in boxing or even in martial arts, they tell you when you're hitting a target or a bag, not to look at the surface, but to look through it, because your arm will go there. Same thing on this point. If you're looking exactly where you're going, you're going to end up on the surface, and he's going to feel it a little bit. You want to make sure that his arm starts here, just open for a second, but it ends up all the way down there. So your focus point, instead of being here, is actually down here, and you bring him down this way. Now, the further up the arm we go, which we'll see later on, the more dramatic the body reaction is. If he was to grab a little higher and we hit him on one of these, his entire body moves. This particular move would generally be used in a less threatening situation. If he, say, had a knife in the other hand, I would not be rubbing this point. This is more somebody just grabbed you and you get out. This is excellent for smaller people, for children. Everybody's sensitive. And what you're also going to find is the larger the person and the stronger their grip, the better this works. So if you have a very strong man and an average-sized woman, the woman will have no problem doing it against the man. The man might not even be able to make it work on the woman. But the man can just go like this and make the woman let go because of the strength difference. So when you're working with somebody, make sure you're working with somebody strong. Make sure they grab you. If John grabs me and he's very loose, he doesn't feel anything. You know, I'm moving him, but he's not feeling it. But the tighter he grabs, tight, he's actually in pain from that. What happens is the more tense he gets, the nerve runs all the way up the arm to the neck. It actually tightens. The tighter the nerve is, the quicker the impulse goes, the more pain there's going to be. So the first one is the rub point. Now this can be rubbed with the knuckles. If he was to grab with the other side, we could also use the ulnar bone on the bottom to rub to make him let go. We can also, if he was grabbing higher, use finger pressure. And we would have to, instead of rubbing, we're pulling in this direction, causing a rubbing motion, which would actually bring him into us. So rather than trying to use grip and pull him in, we just rub in this point, and it brings him right down, leaving this arm free to strike him or to block anything that might be coming our way. Second point we're going to use is exactly opposite to the lung point. It's called heart 6. It's a ½ inch above the wrist joint, and this is a press point. Press point means it has to be pressed or squeezed. The way we use this one, the way we demonstrate it is if he makes a nice tight fist and I try to bend it, I can't. But by taking my thumb knuckle and pressing it into the point, the wrist bends and sets him up for a wrist lock. Now, nobody's going to give you their fist and allow you to do this technique. The way we use this would be as he's grabbing, maybe we want to peel his arm off and bring him into an arm bar. If he was grabbing nice and tight and I grabbed his forearm and pulled, I might not be able to get him to move. Because while his wrist remains straight, he has maximum power. If anybody tries this, if you make a tight fist and bend it, as it bends, the hand tends to open. So by bending the wrist, the hand opens, he loses all power. So what I'm going to do is with my middle finger, with this part, the pad, almost like an Indian sunburn, I'm going to grab and I'm going to rub that point, pressing it against the bone. So now as I dig in here, it brings him to this position, which was a lot easier than before with a lot less effort. Now, in real situation, we wouldn't stand there and just use one arm. We would let both arms do the work. This would dig in, this would help, and we would bring him right down, allowing us to follow up on other points, or if we did it severely enough, we can bring him straight down to the ground. So we have our rub point, and we have our press point. The third point we're going to cover is the hit point. Hit point is called lung 6. It's directly in the middle between the wrist and the elbow, where this muscle tries to drop down and on the inside of the bone. This point, if you rub it, he feels it a little bit because I'm digging into his bone, but if you hit it with your forearm, the arm just flies away. Now, his arm will go where I put it. If I go this way, he's going to go that way. But we always want him coming towards us. This way we can strike. Right now, I can't really reach him. He can't reach me with power. As I hit him this way, he's right here for the follow-up shots. So in a situation like this, I would have my choice of rubbing, pressing, and hitting. And that choice would be based on what martial art I do. If I did a grappling art or a jiu-jitsu art, I'd want to come for this one to get him into an armbar. If I was doing more like karate or a striking art, I'd want to come in here to hit him. And if I just wanted to release from the hold, I would just come here, possibly to step away and wait to see what he does next. Now, we spoke earlier about how the points weaken him. When I do this to him this way, he's weak for about a second. When I hit him, it's still going to amplify the effect. But if I come in and I hit the arm and it kind of goes to sleep like it does right now, I actually have up to 20 minutes to follow up with my next shot. So basically, as long as he's feeling that pain in his arm, that nerve is transmitting up. And as long as it's transmitting up from the arm, when you catch it up and meet it towards the top, you're going to have the effect amplified. So when you practice, we just use just enough to make him let go. If you do more than that, nobody's going to want to practice with you and you won't get the work in. So what you do is you do as little as possible just to make him let go. Now, you're going to come across people that you're going to hit them, and they're going to say it doesn't hurt. But while they're saying it doesn't hurt, their hand's still going to open. The purpose of these strikes is to make them release, bring their body forward, set up the nerve. Whether they feel pain or not is completely irrelevant. Any trained fighter, anybody that's a fan of boxing or full contact, I've seen many fights where a fighter gets his nose broken or breaks his hand and continues to fight because he goes through the pain. So if John grabbed me and I broke his nose right now where he's nice and calm, it would hurt him a lot and would affect him. If he was trying to kill me or mug me, I would hit him, and if he could take the pain, he'd still come forward. The reason being is I'm giving him pain, but I'm not neurologically causing him to do anything. By striking one of these points, neurologically, this hand has to open. Most people will feel a lot of pain, but even the ones that don't will still have the same effect. Okay, to sum up the three first points that we've done. The first one is lung 8, 1/2 inch above the wrist crease, and it's rubbed from top to bottom, so we're rubbing towards the hand. The second point is called heart 6. It's 1/2 inch above the wrist joint, but it's on the bottom of the arm. And that one is pressed either with finger pressure or with knuckle pressure, causing the wrist to buckle. And the third point is halfway between the elbow and the wrist on the inside of the bone. That's called lung 6. This one is struck. Now, in the way that we struck it before, we used our forearm. The reason for that is our forearm is meaty and